Hey guys, Rohan here, back again for the next part of the Def Leppard Rock Brigade series discography review. And what's interesting for this particular installment is this was actually the early 2000s. So in the last review, we actually spoke about the album Euphoria, and what a big success that was. Bringing Def Leppard a lot of fame and accolades, and really seeing them have a pretty successful world tour as well across many different continents, and them actually trying out and also bringing back a lot of the songs that they hadn't really played for a long time, back onto a lot of the concert shows. One of the songs most notable was Wasted. So as the millennium came in, Def Leppard were really celebrating their success again of the third I-8 trilogy album Euphoria, and thinking about how they wanted to take things forward, as far as their music went and what the fans were really going to look forward to. Now, at this point, once again, unlike the mid 90s, or very much like the mid 90s actually, was the music scene started to shift once more, and you notice that there were a lot of pop-based music and hip-hop that was becoming even bigger. So grunge was sort of, while still big, was not really, at the forefront as a lot of this pop music was, and so on. And you did see a lot of new metal, you saw a lot of new age bands come out and so on, but that was not really a path that Def Leppard really wanted to go down on, making their music in that kind of vein, because they had already tried something very similar with the album Slang. Now, what they decided to do was to try and think about, how their music could actually evolve. And one of the things that they actually thought at this point was to make it a bit more mainstream. For a lot of fans, when reading the reviews and trying to understand, what the new music was going to be, we were pretty excited, thinking that maybe this might be an album that might be as, good as Euphoria. Although there were some points where I did mention I was a little disappointed, but still overall a good solid album. But the thing is that would it combine, bits and good bits from Euphoria as well as some interesting bits from Slang, or maybe something from, say, Off Adrenalize or Hysteria. The thing is that Leopard did go with the mainstream idea, and to a lot of us, you could say it was more of an amazement where we were not quite sure how to react. And again, I no disrespects, because there are a lot of guys who do love this album. What we ended up with in 2002 was the album, yeah, 10 or X as it's called. Now, 10 or X, or let's take the album title as 10, because that's the more official one. A lot of guys call it X. 10 was not exactly the 10th studio album by the band. You could often attribute it more to the fact that it was the 10th overall release from the EP, counting the EP, the Def Leppard EP as well. And what was interesting about this album was that Def Leppard had tried to change their sound for the second time. This is in fact what a lot of music guys and a lot of fans in fact cite, that this was the second time Leppard actually tried to change their sound in a direction that was not exactly, you could say, Def Leppard, but a lot of fans might argue that the sound still is Def Leppard, but let's not get into such a detailed argument on that. Let's rather focus on the music itself. But before we get into that, this was the third studio album that Vivian Campbell was on. People were pretty excited to see what the kind of guitar work and chops that he was going to demonstrate on this particular album along with Phil Collen. And what we ended up with was the album 10. And starting off with the graphic artwork, truth be told, I would kind of label this as the weakest artwork that Def Leppard has ever put out. I mean, honestly, for a fact that I've mentioned that On Through the Night was my favorite cover art, but a lot of fans just adore High and Dry. They love Pyromania. They absolutely go crazy about Hysteria or Adrenalize, with the kind of pupil effect with the lightning flying out of it, and Retroactive, the two-tone kind of image, and even Slang for the kind of slightly hidden image that it had. But the thing is that this album just looks more like, someone took a white sheet and, took some ink or some black paint and just smeared it over here and ended up with this unfinished, rough, I would go so far as saying scrap piece of paper that you actually see. And with the logo actually kind of being hidden, slightly over here. But the whole idea was to have an image that, you could see from a distance and then you could probably recognize it. But quite honestly, this was something you just did not want to recognize. Yes, I'll be bold enough to say that it was just something that a lot of Leopard fans, myself included, just did not appreciate. We did not think it made any sense whatsoever. In fact, it was a real letdown. why are we so fanatical about graphic art and cover art is because as a Leopard fan, lots of guys will tell you, excuse me, lots of guys will tell you that the kind of artwork that they actually put out is something that really demands your attention and you want to see it, and it really gives you a good vibe as to what the music is on that particular album. This itself was the first sign of trouble in some ways. But alright, once we get into the actual music of the album, it starts off with the song Now. Now I would rate as a really, really good track. What Def Leppard had actually done with this particular album was they collaborated with a lot of outside songwriters and musicians. So now I think You're So Beautiful, Every Day, these were songs that I think Phil had written with a guy called Marty Fredrickson, who had written, for instance, some songs with Aerosmith at this point. And Jaded, yes, Jaded was a song that he had written with them. So they, in fact, liked that track. They got in touch with him. Phil started working with him on these particular songs. Now is a good fruit of labor from that partnership, you could say. And it is a song that, you know, demonstrates a lot of good acoustic elements, a lot of, you know, like this sonic sound bits that you can actually hear in the song. And it's got a good sense of heaviness to it, as well as, you know, this kind of alternative chorus type sound, you know, which is almost like this wailing sound and so on. And I think they've done a really nice job on this song. It's a good way to start off, but it's perhaps the only track that you can actually hear from the album now on during their concerts where they actually play it as part of an acoustic set. But it is a good song. Do check it out. It is a good mix. Definitely a song that is should be played more often, and it is a song that a lot of Leopard fans do love, myself included. The next song is a very good song, catchy song, but it starts off, you know, as a second track being a ballad. Now, if you're familiar with the way in Def Leppard actually structures, you know, the moods of their albums and actually position songs, you'd actually realize that they probably have a ballad, probably as track number 4, and, you know, probably track number 10, and so on. You know, you can sort of guess where they might actually fit it in a sort of a ballad type track. But all right, Unbelievable is a good song. Collaborate with some other songwriters as well. Has a nice feel to it. You could like it, and you just kind of move on, hoping that now things are going to get really good, edgy, and heavy. Where's, you know, the heavy rock? Bring it on. You get into a track called You're So Beautiful. Now, it's a nice track. It's a good song, clean song, pop song, but it's not exactly a rock song. Now, a lot of guys might point fingers and say that, well, you just don't like it because it's just not a rock album, it's more a pop album, but that's not actually true. I do like a lot of the pop elements, and Def Leppard has balanced so many good pop elements with hard rock elements, you know, all the way through, even some heavy metal elements as well, which you can definitely see on albums like Retroactive and Slang. Even Euphoria has got a couple things like Paper Sun and, you know, Day After Day and so on. But over here, what happens is that you get into You're So Beautiful, you get into Every Day, which is a nice song, but again, very balladish in its approach. It almost sounds like so far all the songs have been written acoustic guitar, but not really involve that heavy rock riff type sound that we're so familiar with Leopard, you know, actually doing. They're good songs, but again, it's just like it's getting to be like, okay, where is the rock really? Then you get into a proper huge ballad, which is Long, Long Way to Go. Yes, another ballad, but this ballad is awesome. This is a ballad that really sits right up there with, you know, songs like Love Bites, Too Late for Love, Goodbye, When Love and Hate Collide, Stand Up, Kick Love into Motion. A really awesome track. It features once again this whole orchestra arrangement that the last time you heard it was When Love and Hate Collide, and it is really, really something that you can really appreciate in a very big way. Really good song. Then you skip into a track called Four-Letter Word. Now, it starts off, and immediately you sort of sense this is a huge AC/DC feel to it. Leppard has been huge fans of AC/DC. They opened for them back in the early days. They adore this band. They look up to them as mentors in such a profound way. In fact, AC/DC were the ones who convinced them to work with Mutt Lange back at the time when they were starting with On Through the Night, their first debut album, but eventually they worked with them on High and Dry. But the point is that you can really see a sort of AC/DC feel to this song, which is really good. The music is catchy. It really makes a lot of sense. It's really nice. The lyrics are fine. You could sort of tolerate that, but you would just kind of appreciate if the song had a little more edge to it. Just a little more edge, but you could still love this song nonetheless. Torn to Shreds is again a really good track. Rock solid. It's got this really interesting guitar work that's happening around it. The way Rick is playing his drums on this in particular is really noticeable. It's nice that the way they've, you know, been able to balance a good set of production on this song. And you can really sort of say that, like four-letter word, it could have had a little more edge, but you can still appreciate it. So both good songs on this. Then you get into a track. Now this is where things start to go a little gray and hazy. Is you get into a song called "Love Don't Lie." Now the thing was with "Love Don't Lie," when I first heard it, I thought this was a song that might fit on the Slang album. Sort of the feel to it had this kind of electronic feel, guitar feel, which kind of reminded me of "Work It Out" in some ways, but it's not exactly that. But the thing is that this song is nice, but you just want it to get over with, pretty quick, so you can get on to the next good stuff, hoping that something good is going to come. Uh, Gravity is, I'm sorry to say, it's laughable. It's, yeah, it's Leopard trying really hard. It's kind of like All Night of Euphoria. They try to create this, pour some sugar on me type song, and I'm not exactly sure what the heck they were trying on this. I mean, a lot of guys like this, but for me, this just does not work. I mean, this song is a song I just want to skip. It just doesn't make any sense. Cry is a good song. It's got this alternative rock feel to it, and it's got the sense of heaviness that you were hoping for. So you can appreciate this. You can sink your teeth into this song or your musical ear in to really, pulling the song in. It makes a lot of sense. Girl Like You goes in the same vein as kind of Gravity, and again, it just doesn't make any sense. It's just like you're starting to get this album filled with this balladish kind of stuff. I know I've said there's some really good songs, that's true, but it's just you just begin to wonder where is all of this going really. And then you get into a song called "Let Me Be the One." Now, "Let Me Be the One," from when the band was talking about this album coming out, when you first hear the opening bit, you find out that it's got an orchestra as well. It's very similar in the vein of "Long Long Way to Go" and "When Love and Hate Collide," with this whole orchestra arrangement, like two steps behind as well. The thing is that it starts off promising, but it just kind of loses you. It just falls flat somewhere. It just doesn't seem to really pick itself up and really, amaze you the way you think it's going to. It's a promising start. It's a nice track, but it's not what I would call very memorable. A lot of people love it. You guys may love it too. You let me know, but that's just my opinion. Then comes a song called "Scar." Now, "Scar" is interesting because again, it's a hard rock sound, something which we're very familiar with Leopard actually putting together. It kind of reminds me in some ways, not musically, but just some ways, of Paper Sun. Although it's not really structured on that theme or sounds anything like Paper Sun. But the thing is, it is a very good song. It's nice, but again, for some reason, I'm not sure why, it's not memorable. You somehow feel like you've heard this song before, like they've released it before. They've pulled it out from the vaults, no pun intended, but just pulled it out from the vaults and ended up with this track. And it's good, you like it, but it's not a track that really stands out in your mind in a very big way. You kind of tend to forget it once the album's done playing. Yeah. But no disrespects, again, a lot of friends I know adore this song, so I'm just going to leave it at that and hopefully not get kicked for it. But anyway, you guys let me know what you think. The next track, and this again actually comes back to the album cover. So in some regions, you'd actually find that the X is in white and the background is in black. But in the region which, say, I live in, you actually find that it's this way. But it just indicates whether you would get a couple of bonus tracks or not, which is what I actually kind of read in one of the interviews. And you end up with a song called "Kiss the Day." Now, "Kiss the Day" is really awesome. Yes, this is an awesome song that, a lot of credit is given to Rick Savage on, putting the song together. And you can really see Phil and Vivian actually having a load of fun, actually playing on this track. There's something about the energy on this track that is really good. It's got this laid-back feel, this kind of mid-tempo vibe. It sort of draws you in again, very much like Pearl of Euphoria or some of the other tracks like I just mentioned earlier in some of the other reviews I've done. And you begin to really appreciate this song and the way it builds up to finally the way it concludes. You can sort of enjoy it through and through. So it's definitely a standout track. Overall, this album has, I would not say, while I might call it, in my opinion, the weakest album in the discography of Def Leppard, it's definitely not an atrocious album. It could still stand tall to many other rock acts, which were out at this time and even, till today. But the thing is that given the kind of larger-than-life albums that Leppard has even done, and I would even say, yes, my personal favorite, Slang, just knowing how big that album was on so many levels and how fans are embracing it even now, this is an album that tends to get forgotten in many ways in the entire discography. and just what that means is that it has its fans, but it didn't do as well as a lot of other albums did. In fact, some people might say, did it do better than Slang? No, it did not. In fact, this album is rated as, you know, the weakest one overall. It's not just me saying it, it's even in terms of sales and so on. But do check it out. There are some songs here which you will appreciate and things which you will like. And moving forward as to what the band decided to do at this point was kind of interesting, which we'll discuss in the next review. It's about not just going back to their roots, but going back to the point, you know, as to where the seeds for those roots were actually planted. You know, what were the things that really influenced them to really want to pick up guitars, play drums, you know, have a bit of dabble on a keyboard, and, you know, stand in front of a microphone and be on stage and so on. So we're going to discuss that in the next review which we have. But till then, you guys take care.